Hey there and welcome back to another Miraculous Ladybug video. And today I want to take a little bit of a look at the character of Adrien. Because over the past season, we've watched the slow disintegration and the supposed repair of the relationship between Ladybug and Cat Noir. With the main issue between the two being that Ladybug has been distancing herself since she became the Guardian, and they've been acting less and less like a duo than they have in the past. But beyond that, another key issue, and really what the show's been pushing at the forefront, is Cat Noir's unrequited love for Ladybug. And because this has been pushed further and further to the forefront, we've gotten more instances of him pushing forward his affection, and less of Marinette's freaky stalker antics this season, purely because she's been so preoccupied with being the Guardian. So in essence, she has less time to be a creeper. It has happened this season for her, but I'd say it was to a bit of a lesser extent. It's still there, and my god, she still creeps with the best of them, but it was not like it was in previous seasons, where it felt like it was every single episode. So, on to the point of the video. I've called out Cat Noir on a number of occasions, and there seems to be some significant discourse in the comments that either I'm completely right, or I'm not giving Cat Noir a fair treatment, not looking at the situation as a whole, and ignoring Marinette's creepy antics. Now on that note, a while ago, I made an in-depth discussion on whether the character of Marinette and her role within the story was written in a problematic way. So I have covered this already, and you can check that out here if you like. And in the wake of that video, I got heaps of comments either telling me I was spot on, or telling me I'm too harsh and Cat Noir needs the same treatment. And so here I am, giving Cat Noir the same treatment, fully expecting I'm about to be told I'm being too harsh, and that I'm a Marinette fanboy. It seems like no matter what I do I can't win, but since I'm no coward, let's jump into it. So, for the most part, I think that the character of Adrien is presented as a pretty borderline perfect guy, right? I don't think I'm wrong for saying that. He's considered handsome, and is a famous model, and has a horde of rabid fans that chase him from place to place, vying for his attention and affection, with an additional 4 major characters being romantically interested in him at one point or another. He's popular amongst his peer group, even if he doesn't get to spend that much time with them. He's talented, being a skilled musician on keys, is able to speak different languages, is a champion fencer, good at video games, and spends his free time moonlighting as a superhero and kicking villain ass on the regular. And then on top of all of that, he still manages to be nice to basically everybody. And I don't think there's a single person in his class that he's ever actually mean to. He doesn't belittle people, he doesn't mock or tease, or make somebody feel bad about themselves, at least on purpose. And the only time he really ever puts his foot down is when somebody's actively making the lives of his other friends worse. Exhibit A being when he went after Lila for lying so much to get Marinette in trouble and turn everybody else against her, and Exhibit B being when he cut off Chloe for good for her continual bullying of everybody in the world. And then on top of all of that, on top of being talented and kind and protective of his friends, he's still able to remain a dutiful son to his abusive dad. And hold on, you might be thinking, what? Wait, you're saying that him loving his abusive dad's a good thing? And no, it's not really a good thing, but at the same time, it also goes on to enhance his image as this perfect person. The guy who can find the good in anybody, who keeps trying to bond with his dad even after he's been let down time and time again. After this guy has pretty much attempted to run his life with his controlling behaviour and his wacky supervillain ways. I mean, the poor kid still keeps trying all the time. And it's actually kind of sad now that you think about it, but it's also really commendable. So based on all of that positive stuff, his kindness, his empathy, his general aura of awesomeness, I can already hear you saying, how could anybody ever consider Adrien problematic at all? What could he possibly do to earn that title in comparison to Marinette? And well, honestly, his problematic elements stem from a pretty similar place as Marinette's do. His interactions with his love interest. So let's first take a look at the problematic behaviour he shows off. And basically, it's pretty much that despite repeated warnings, being told that Ladybug does not see him in a romantic light, being told that she has romantic feelings for somebody else, and that his persistence is starting to get on her nerves and damage their teamwork, he still continues with his brazen flirting, his jealous attempts at monopolizing her attention, and basically being an all-round nuisance in regards to their relationship. And all of that, it's kind of troubling behaviour from a character that's supposed to be viewed as a protagonist. And I think it's made all the more troubling because the show clearly tries to position you to root for him. They want you to want to see him get the girl, to empathize with his character. The big moments where Cat Noir gets rejected or gets his feelings hurt, we have these stories where he acts all depressed about how his true love doesn't want him, or he abandons the team, or he gets angsty. We're meant to feel sorry for him with the sad eyes and the sad music. Hell, a lot of the time Ladybug even ends up apologizing to him for being mean. So in that way, the show kind of brushes off his toxic behaviors. It normalizes them. It justifies them in a way. And honestly, I think that's a bit troubling. Because let's be real, if you saw these behaviors in real life, you'd instantly think, oh, this guy's a bit of a dickhead, isn't he? But here, it's almost as if they glorify him not taking no for an answer. And eventually, as we know, he is going to get the girl. So not only are these toxic behaviors being glorified, but they're also going to be rewarded in the end. And I have to say, that is a problematic way to write the story. Because this is sending the message that not only are these actions acceptable, but they're also romantic and something that should be admired. Aside from Ladybug, nobody ever calls out these behaviors, so it makes her look irrational. It makes her look cruel. Hell, there's even a scene with Plag and Ladybug where Plag tears into Ladybug for ignoring him when he clearly has feelings for her. So basically, be nice to him because he loves you. It feels like the story wants Marinette to push down the uncomfortable feelings of being hit on by someone she doesn't want to hit on her. One, because it's her close friend. And two, oh, think of how he feels. He must be heartbroken. And look, I do get why people sort of gloss over it for the most part. Because the rest of his character is presented as such a goody-goody. In his Adrien alter ego, we see he's basically the perfect person. Whereas Marinette comes across as creepy and weird in her interactions with him. And since a big chunk of the episodes follow them before they transform, we often get more dialogue and interaction between them in civilian form. Because when they power up, they also have to fight the villains and do all the hero stuff, so they banter, but it's not quite the same. Thus, the primary vision we have of Adrien is that of the kind and respectable person who's friends with everybody and mistreated by his dad. And Marinette instead often comes across as possessive of Adrien, absurdly jealous, clingy, creepy, and cringy. Thus, when we see them in their hero personas, we're more easily led to just accept that as the status quo. So instead of viewing Cat Noir as pushy or kind of gross in a way, instead he's sad and downtrodden and underappreciated. And instead of Ladybug being his long-suffering partner who needs a break, we say she's a bitch and that she leads him on and mistreats him. And to me that is troubling because his behaviour in this context isn't acceptable. And it's weird to me that the writing's almost manipulating us into thinking that it is. And I mean, does she even lead him on? I don't think so, most of the time. Smiling and nicknames are not flirting. It's being friendly. It's having friends. It astounds me that in 2022, we're trying to victim blame a character for not wanting romantic advancements, despite having said no numerous times. Although, on the other hand, I do see where this sort of comes from, in a way. Because then we have shit like the episode Risk, where she gives him a kiss on the cheek. Now, a lot of times, that can be an innocuous friend thing. But not when one person clearly has very strong romantic feelings. That is actually leading somebody on. So I do understand the perspective, but I think that for the most part, she doesn't. And that most of her actions really should be framed from a friend-zoned scenario. I mean, he's so friend-zoned that when she discovers Adrien is Cat Noir in that What If style episode, she briefly questions whether she actually has true feelings for him at all and doubts giving him a chance. And before you get your hackles up too much, I'm not condemning the character, right? I think for the most part, he's written in a way that makes him come across as a very positive figure. But the way his interactions are written with Ladybug are inherently problematic. But it doesn't have to be written that way, and that's why it's so frustrating, because unlike Marinette, his problematic behaviour is not an intrinsic part of his characterization. He can still be salvaged, unlike her. A big part of Marinette is her love for Adrien, which manifests in a super creepy and obsessive way because she's utter trash at flirting and giving romantic signals. You can't really remove that without the dynamic shifting a lot and altering the character significantly. It's problematic in its own way, but there's not much to be done about it at this point. For Adrien though, yes, the Ladybug love is a big part of his characterization, but for God's sake, you don't need to have him proposition her every episode. What happened to the tried and tested technique of sad pining in the background? It was mastered by anime long ago. Shit, I mean, you can still see it in so many shows and films. It is a good way to garner sympathy without making the dude look too creepy and entitled. And I just really can't wrap my head around why they'd want him to come across this way anyway. Well, I kinda do, so they can keep making drama for episodes where he gets rejected. But I just think it would be healthier and a better characterization for them to retain the romance, but turn it into more of an unrequited love from afar storyline, as opposed to flirt, flirt, please kiss me, flirt, flirt type storyline. Because at the end of the day, Marinette and Adrien, from a writing perspective, they're both good people at their core. They both strive to help others and they have good intentions. That's why they were chosen to be superheroes in the story. But just like Marinette, Adrien has been written, in my opinion, in a problematic way at times. It feels like the writers are trying to humorize the love Marinette has for Adrien and romanticize the love Cat Noir has for Ladybug. But the problems with both of these is that the recipients are really not that receptive. You can dress it up whatever way you want, but that's just a fact. And it's annoying, because I feel like as a fandom as a whole, we tend to prefer the non-problematic moments anyway. Like Adrien and Marinette dancing, or Cat Noir accepting Ladybug loves somebody else. They feel genuine and have much more romantic undertones than pushy flirtation and creepy stalking. So, as a whole, I do have issues with the way that this facet of Adrien's personality is addressed by the writing. But that isn't something that can't be fixed. So really, we should all be hoping that with this recent reconciliation between Cat Noir and Ladybug, that Cat Noir will be written to finally learn to respect her wishes. But then again, Marinette has not developed at all in that sense, so I think I'm holding on to some false hope. And by the way, I'm not saying that I hate these characters. On the contrary, I think it's okay to like these characters. After all, they are good people. But I think it is necessary to call out this weird writing choice because it is wrong and it shouldn't be romanticized in any way. I mean, this sort of shit comes straight out of the 90s or the 2000s, not in this era of storytelling. It just feels archaic, like it's a relic of the past, and I think it's time to move on from that way of thinking. But as always, that's just my opinion, and now I'd like to hear yours. What is your stance on all of this? You with me, or am I being unfair and a white knight? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to leave a comment and let me know.